my god, it's another OGL video. Have to get on it while it's popular, milk it for all the money it's worth. Like WOTC. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, my bangs. We're gonna ignore the fact that my bangs are like so uneven right now. We got some things to talk about, my friends. If you have been basically anywhere on the internet and care about Dungeons and Dragons, you have very likely heard about the open gaming license, to put it lightly, controversy happening right now with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. I am not going to be explaining what the OGL is really and getting into that because by now tons and tons of people have made videos about it, some of them being actual lawyers who are able to put this so much more eloquently and explain it so much more thoroughly than I, so I will be linking resources in the description that you should honestly probably watch first if you don't really know what the OGL is and why this is a huge thing happening, for lack of a better term. And lots of D&D and tabletop role players, public figures, and content creators have already spoken out about how awful this is. But today I kind of wanted to address things from a little bit of a different perspective that might be helpful for people who are not content creators themselves and might not really know where they stand in all of this. Today I will be answering the question, will the OGL affect average, non-content creating D&D players and DMs? And my short answer is it probably should. And I will get into why that's the wording I'm choosing. But first, I do want to make just a very, very quick disclaimer. Okay, I love D&D. This is not going to be a give up playing D&D forever video, burn your books, nothing like that. I'm actually going to play D&D in a few days. But there are some things we have to talk about and how to keep playing D&D a little more, I don't want to say ethically, but like kind of, or at least be informed about what you're doing and where you're putting your money. I think for a lot of us regular D&D fans, what is actually happening with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast is honestly just kind of hurtful. It might seem silly to have like a parasocial relationship with the company, but in some ways, D&D brings you all these benefits, so you want to think highly of the people who bring you something that you cherish so much. But even though it has been obvious, especially the way they handle Magic the Gathering, I think now D&D fans are truly realizing that Wizards of the Coast doesn't care about them. And that can be hurtful when you invest so much into a game. But I want to get into how this will affect you, the presumably more average D&D player, and when I say average, I just mean you're not like a content creator selling third-party content, you're not like a D&D streamer, probably not even like me, who I do make YouTube videos about D&D on occasion, just someone who plays D&D with their friends or family and doesn't create content for D&D, which in actuality is most of the D&D community. How will this affect you? There is like a small situation where you have all the D&D books you want and everyone has like pen and paper character sheets and you're not interested in getting more content through third parties or buying anything else from Wizards of the Coast and you're just happy with what you have and you don't interact with the larger D&D community. I realize that this is a possibility for some people, and in that case, maybe it technically won't affect you. But if you're watching this video, that means you're watching a D&D tabletop related video, which means you probably do interact with the D&D community. And if I'm being completely honest, playing D&D without any third-party or homebrewed content is kind of like playing Skyrim without any mods. You can, but why would you? So I'm gonna list some of the ways that us more average D&D fans might be affected by this news, because even though we won't be the ones hit the hardest, and I do not for 1 minute want to pretend that we are more victims than the actual content creators and small businesses and people putting their hearts and souls and careers into this, I don't want to pretend we're getting hit harder than them, but I feel like this is an angle that isn't really talked about and it will just help kind of people like me know where they stand a little more. If you do use third-party content, you should be prepared for a huge shift. Right now, I'm referring more to like stat blocks created by third parties or pre-written adventures or like written things of that nature. A lot of content creators who are creating this sort of stuff for D&D genuinely don't know where their careers and their future is going to lie. So I think you should be prepared for a lot of the content and resources that you regularly use to either disappear, and I think a more likely case is for a lot of people's D&D 5e content to become system agnostic, which basically means it will be used in slightly more general terms and be able to be applied to multiple different systems. And I think even if the OGL is revised, or they're just not making a new one and just using the old one, which I don't think is going to happen, I think people are going to go this route anyways, because they are starting to realize the benefits of not having their livelihood so tied up with Wizards of the Coast. In that way, not only are they protected, but also more people technically can use their content if they can apply it to different systems. So I think some monsters or adventures or whatever kind of D&D supplements and content you're currently using, I think you should be prepared for it to be in less specific D&D 5e mechanics, and future things to start shifting to be more system agnostic. Wow, I can't say that word. So that might be something you'll see, and you might have to do a little bit more personal, like, translating to your own system, if that makes sense. Again, if you're watching this D&D video on YouTube, presumably you probably watch other D&D YouTube videos, and I would also expect a very similar sort of shift here. While this sort of fan content and like streams and stuff like that is protected, it might seem at first glance like it won't be affected, but a lot of it actually will. For a few reasons. A lot of D&D YouTubers, first of all, do make kind of written content for D&D, but also majority of them are sponsored by third-party publishers who will be taking a huge hit right now. So some of their sponsors may pull out or just be put on hold a little bit when the whole community is kind of in shambles. So you may find that some of your D&D YouTubers either are not able to make content as regularly, it might not be the same quality, and I think honestly, this whole situation has just left a very, very bad taste in the mouth of D&D fans, and I think a lot of D&D YouTubers are going to be not making D&D content anymore because, I mean, we're all mad at Dungeons & Dragons right now, let's be honest. They might also make more general videos that are able to apply to all sorts of RPGs, again, because they don't want to specifically have to rely on the D&D name. I would also expect your favorite D&D YouTubers to probably start switching to recommending other games and creating advice and content for other sorts of systems. And I don't think that this is a bad thing at all. I think it's very interesting. I want to try Call of Cthulhu and Monster of the Week really badly myself. But yeah, I would definitely expect, at least in the next few weeks, and honestly probably months, and this may be a forever kind of hit, although I'm sure it will recover a little bit over time, I would just expect D&D content creators, third-party publishers, etc. to kind of slow down with D&D in general. So if you regularly consume this kind of stuff, you just won't have as much of it. You might have to translate it into 5e, and in all honesty, you might just have to start making a lot more stuff yourself. And I want to get into this next piece, which is like, what can the average D&D fan do to help? There's the hashtag OpenD&D, which is like a letter you can sign. I will link it in the bio, and then of course tweeting about it and stuff will help kind of push it out there. There is the D&D playtest happening. I don't know if that document is still open. I saw another YouTuber recommend putting in the feedback section, just being like, I will no longer be supporting Wizards of the Coast unless they make sure that the old OGL will not be revoked. Wizards of the Coast cares about money. Hasbro cares about the money. They are a corporation. So if you start to make that known, they will at some point kind of have to listen. Following that kind of train, there has been some updates really recently. Apparently an employee of Wizards of the Coast leaked a little something that was basically like, what Wizards of the Coast is focusing on now is D&D Beyond subscriptions, because all these people can be mad, but if they have the same amount of people subscribed and still kind of interested in their stuff, they're gonna go forward with it because they're not losing out on that much money. So I would encourage you to cancel your D&D Beyond subscription. Some people are straight up deleting their accounts, and I think if you really are disgusted with D&D and WOTC and just really do not see yourself ever trusting them again, I would encourage you to do so. I'm not deleting my account because I do still use some of the characters on there, but I would at least encourage you to cancel your subscription. I would also encourage you to keep talking about this, to tell your friends about it, to send them this video or some other videos. Us average D&D players, while yes, technically we could be affected very minimally, we have to have the backs of these content creators who have tried so hard and brought so much more to the table than WOTC ever has. We have to support them and show them that, hey, you are doing great work. You have created so much that has made my time around the table with my friends so much better, and I want to support you when times are hard. I would encourage you to go to your favorite D&D content creators if you have the money to perhaps buy things from them, but if you can't, just make sure to watch their videos, especially if they're trying to put out content about other TTRPGs and things like that, because the algorithms for various platforms really love the name D&D, and especially because this drama is happening, I'm sure D&D is even more of a hot topic. If they try to put something else, it might really kind of hurt the way the algorithm treats their channel, so please watch their videos, please leave them likes, subscribes, etc., because they could really use it, I'm sure. And I do want to say something else. There is very late breaking updates that Wizards of the Coast is creating a new version of the OGL. They're like, hold on, I know y'all hate us, so some things aren't true. They're like, we're not taking some of the revenue and stuff like that. I'll leave a link in the description about how things have changed a little bit with their response, but to be completely honest, I think a lot of the damage has already been done, and they still did not clearly state that they are leaving the old OGL alone, so the main problem is still a problem, and I think a lot of people are disappointed that Wizards of the Coast has taken this long to put out a response, and that's all we got. Like, come on now. But we did get some good news. Paizo, the creators of Pathfinder, are teaming up with like Kobold Press and a bunch of other people to create ORC, which is the open RPG license, which will allow independent publishers and content creators to create content under ORC. Again, I'll leave videos that explain it better. So I think you will find that in time, a lot of the D&D OGL content creators that you are used to getting 5e content from and watching their videos, I think you will find them switching over to ORC. Again, we don't have confirmation of any of the details of that, but from what I heard, it sounded really good. The D&D community is really not one to be trifled with. If they think we will not adapt and move on from WOTC, they're wrong. They're wrong. It was honestly a very foolish move on their part. I think we all know that now. At some point, this is an attack against creators. Us playing D&D, we are all very creative people, and we have to defend our fellow creators. Now is the time for us to band together. I know this was a little bit disjointed and not super full of information. I just wanted to kind of put a perspective on it for how things might change for average D&D fans who aren't necessarily affected directly by the OGL, and they won't have any like content affected or anything like that. A lot of what has happened with the OGL is leaked and alleged, except for their response. I mean, they really did post it. I just wanted to give a little insight into how you might be affected if you are a D&D fan, a DM, a D&D player. It's still something that you should care about if you care about the community at large. If you like this video and videos like this, I post every other Sunday. I post content about cosplay and Dungeons and Dragons and the other sorts of nerdy things I'm into, so if you like that, feel free to subscribe. I would love to have you around. Have a beautiful day, my precious everyone. Cancel your D&D Beyond subscription, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!